Hello, my name's Timur Mohammed and I'm supporting my dissertation with a presentation in my visual language, BSL, British Sign Language. Is the sound on? Oh, sorry. No sound? That's better. I'd like for you to experience what it's like, how it feels to rely on the visual without sound. Get the big picture. I chose my dissertation title because I'm aware of the problems that deaf people are constantly facing when they want to play games. We'll look at those issues later. I'm a games design student myself, but it's not just me that's identified the problems. Many deaf gamers have views about good and bad practice in the making of games from a deaf perspective, and I intend to take a more in-depth look at that. My presentation will focus on the access to games for deaf people, but will also consider the possibility that those opportunities for improvement may be beneficial not just to deaf people, but for all players. There are many areas for improvement that the game industry could look at. For example, sound's not accessible, subtitles, games packaging, the information on the box, the possible inclusion of a deaf character, who knows? The fact that the number of deaf people is set to rise, will this affect the games industry? Visual culture, and the barriers that deaf people in the past have faced. Firstly, let's look at the issue of sound. Okay, consider what we might call a normal hearing person. This gamer, when playing, won't want interrupting. They'll want to give the game their full attention. They use the sound to guide them, and if they miss that information, well, they'll fail. They can't concentrate if background noise like partying or other entertainment intrudes on the gameplay. It becomes difficult to differentiate between the noises on and off screen. The second category would be hard of hearing. The best way to describe this person would be a 50-50 mix of deaf and hearing. If sound presents itself slowly in a quiet environment, then they can hear, especially if they can support those sounds with either lip reading or subtitles. Now the third category is deaf. This group are profoundly deaf. They use sign language and would be oblivious to the noises around them. When they play games, they are, of course, without sound, and there is where the problem lies. Can you see the figure in the mask from Star Wars? Darth Vader. Right, just watch. I think you'll agree it's impossible to lip read him. If you can hear his voice, fine. But imagine if you couldn't. How would that feel? Here's a quote from your local cinema.com asking you if you've ever tried to lip reading Darth Vader. It is impossible. Now to the issue of subtitles. Doom, a very popular game in its original form, was created without subtitles. Lots of people were buying the game, but for deaf people it was inaccessible. Another must-have game was Halo Reach. It showed great promise with its cutscene fully subtitled, but it was impossible to identify which characters were speaking. Very confusing. Then, as the gameplay began, the subtitles disappeared, leaving the deaf player even further confused. Another problem with subtitles can be the choice of colour for the font. It seems that sometimes there is no consideration given to the background they're displayed against. This example I've selected shows the colours clashing, making it really difficult to read. Clear presentation is vital. In this next example, you can see how small the type is. Can you imagine playing the game with your nose pressed against the screen? You need to sit back and read from a normal gaming position. This clip is from the Call of Duty. It has subtitles, which they're great, but if a flash or an explosion happens, then the text disappears into the background. And again, it's a failure. Okay, where's the monster? Have a look at this. In Left 4 Dead, you see that the subtitles are considered. They work well to a point. In speech marks, we see hunter warning. But where is he? The player can't access the location of the hunter to know what action to take. The clues are found in the sound effects. The player stands no chance if he's deaf, so he can easily be crept up upon and killed. We see a similar situation with Tank. Like Left 4 Dead, there are subtitles but no sound effects. The gamer does not know the enemy is near, as the gunfire is not included in the subtitles. He is preyed upon, but is blissfully unaware. Similar problem again. Now let's move on to the subject of games packaging. Have you come across PEGI before? I'm sure that you've seen it. They're responsible for producing the symbols on packaging that informs the buyer about the content suitability in regards to age, violence, health and safety, sexual content, and advises when children shouldn't be allowed to purchase. It would therefore seem only logical to add this to a list of symbols offering information about subtitles. The games industry has responded to this idea. Take a look. They seem to feel that the logos are for warnings indicating inappropriate age, fighting, bad language, horror, etc. Surely it wouldn't hurt just to add one small symbol. This idea hopefully will be taken on board at a future date. Alas, not yet. On the internet you can find the Deaf Gamers website, and it's really useful. It highlights and discusses issues like access and sound. It's created a grading system from A to E. It asks its readers if the language on games packaging is too lengthy or too difficult to read, if it would be presented better in a plain English version. Most agree that there's a need for more visual information, and their A to E system would make it clear to the deaf customer which games would be suitable and usable for them. Let's have a look at how this A to E system works. A. This provides full subtitles, so like Left 4 Dead, you'd get sound effects, visual clues, and colours that would help guide the player. B. This is similar, but a lesser provision, maybe say 70-80% subtitles and some clues, but it needs to acknowledge deaf culture, i.e. the need for lighting, atmosphere and emotion. It generally needs more development. The information as it stands, however, allows the player to follow the storyline. C, well, this isn't perfect. Perhaps the editor's cut has subtitles, but the gameplay does not. This makes it frustrating. You miss information, and this makes it difficult to play. D. In this category, there are no subtitles to support the introductory story. In the game, there would be a few subtitles, but no real detail, and the conversations would be very brief, with no real depth. Now E, this would be a red light to deaf gamers, no subtitles, no access, probably a great storyline, but appropriate only for the hearing community. This A to E system would provide a quick and easy guide to choosing games. Hopefully, the industry will adopt this in the future. Now moving on to the possibility of incorporating a deaf character into a game. Gabe Newell, the creator of Valve, an American company, wanted feedback from the deaf community regarding a deaf character. The company has always considered its deaf users, providing access through subtitles and sound effects. They have taken this a step further and created a deaf character. So now let's have a look what that deaf character might be. This clip is from Half-Life 2. Can you guess who's deaf? It's the dog. He and the girl, Alex, communicate together without any voice, just pictures. I'd like to look at the issue that the number of deaf people in the UK is starting to rise. There are a whole lot of varieties of companies within the games industry. And I think it's worth for them to consider that the deaf population is set to increase, and those people will be affected by lack of access in the future. The industry feels it hasn't the budget to respond to the needs of its deaf consumers. It believes that there aren't enough deaf people in the world to make it worthwhile. But if they research the facts, even just here in the UK, well, just have a look. We can see from these graphs, they disagree with the industry's views about there not being enough deaf people to warrant their investment. At present, there are 10 million hard of hearing people and 800,000 profoundly deaf. But in the future, with an ageing population, let's see what happens. Wow, over